Welcome to the Beyond the Bucket Show, a podcast centered around optimizing all life's buckets. We all have buckets we are balancing: coaching, entrepreneurial ventures, family, passion projects, and health. Let's all take this journey together and become bucket fillers. And here's your host, Chris McSwain.
Dave Stivers is the president of the Pebble Beach Company. He leads this organization with passion, grace, and a management style centered around finding good people. This former Division I football and baseball player at Cal Berkeley went on to graduate from Harvard Law School. He also has 4 kids that all played collegiate athletics at varying levels. Dave gives us some really good tidbits about business practices and how he and his wife were able to facilitate an environment where their kids can thrive in academics and athletics. You are going to get some amazing takeaways on business, life, and navigating college sports for your kids during our conversation with Dave Stivers. We have a terrific guest for our podcast today, a man of many titles. One of them would be president of Pebble Beach. The other would be former Division I quarterback, Harvard law grad. But I think your 2 most important jobs are, 1, husband to Jean and father of 4 to Kate, Tom, Lizzie, and John. Welcome, correct. Dave Stivers.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be here.
Well, I think we met back in 2012. You brought your son John down to play AAU basketball in the program that I run. And I think our only correspondence was, in passing. And, finally we started having team dinners and whatnot. And we start to get to know each other a little bit better. And I just want to say you're one of the most humble people that I've ever met. I really respect your humble nature and just your entire family's nature about yourselves. Tell me about your humility, kind of where that came from, because somebody that holds so many, terrific titles, are a little bit more boastful than yourself.
Well, it's all because of my upbringing, from my mother and father, and we came from humble background in Southern California, and basically my parents, especially my mom, taught me a very strong work ethic. So we believe in that you get what you work for, and that's where it all comes from.
And was education a big part of your upbringing? Going to Cal as well as Harvard, those are 2, fine institutions. And was that something that you were pushed throughout your childhood to attend, and educate yourself?
Yeah, well, my parents' philosophy was just do the best that you can in everything that you undertake, and that that was also true in school. I must say that I was lucky, and I fell into a lot of things education-wise. I went to a public high school, and I got recruited to play athletics in college. And it was not like today where you apply to 12 or 15 schools. It was, well, I'm going to go to Cal, right. and athletics helped me to get into Cal, and it led from there.
Terrific. So tell me about some of the jobs that you had when you were growing up. You come from that hard work ethic, as you just mentioned. But what were some of the jobs that you had that kind of structured your work ethic and habits?
So I had a lot of jobs growing up. Earning a few dollars was really important to me, and I was a paper boy. I was a paper boy in the day where they dropped the papers off at your house, you folded them yourselves, you delivered them on a bike.
Really?
A 5-speed Schwinn bicycle with ram's horn handles. And you delivered your own papers. You collected your own money. So if you didn't collect the money, you didn't get paid. I think parents would go nuts today because you'd knock on doors and get your $2.50 or whatever it was for a month's worth of papers.
Right.
I cleaned pools. I mowed lawns. I was an umpire in Little League. I scored at a bowling alley, 10 cents a game. All of that was important. So I worked from when I was a kid all the way through high school.
Tell me about your any stories that you have from umpiring Little League?
Yeah, well, things haven't changed much in that period of time. Parents were pretty tough back then too, and they didn't like umpires who they didn't like the calls that they were making.
Sure.
And I wasn't afraid to throw parents out of the stands and tell them to go sit in the parking lot, and
Right.
the game was over.
I tell you, I don't know if you know this about me, but I used to officiate basketball at the high school and AAU level. But the last time I ever reffed was probably the worst experience that I've ever had. One, because the assigner didn't pay us, so
Yeah,
he still, if I find the guy, he still owes me $300 for
yeah,
that weekend. But the second part was, we'll go up on a Sunday morning. There was one championship game. I think this was the third game that we did, my buddy and I, and we were just a little bit out of college and just started our coaching career. So what happened was we had to drive all the way out to Martinez, which is about, 80, 90 minutes from San Jose.
yeah,
And we're the last game of the day is 2 sixth grade teams, and just imagine top flight playing themselves, right? So the
yeah,
game doesn't even matter. So
yeah,
it's 2 sixth grade girls teams, and let me tell you, these coaches thought it was the NCAA championship or WNBA championship, whatever you want to call it, but it was unbelievably bad. Both parents on both sides. We had to end the game early, and my buddy and I just looked. And he coaches baseball, and we just kind of looked at ourselves and, hey, that's probably the last time we're going to officiate. But a lot of things have not changed as far as that goes, like you mentioned. But and we'll get to you because you're very on the opposite spectrum of that. Very calm and just more encouraging than anything. So
yeah. Well, I think that when you've been on that side of sports, I think you learn to respect what refs and umpires go through. And
right,
it always has amazed me. Not that you don't get upset if there's a bad call as a parent or a coach, you do,
yeah,
but it can't do you any good to be complaining or complaining too much to a referee, especially at the youth level. They're not a volunteer; they're getting paid, but not a
right.
lot, and they're out there out of the goodness of their hearts trying to do the best that they can. And I can't believe that a parent or a coach would think that it's going to do their team good to be too critical of an umpire who's just trying to do their job.
Right. Especially at that youth level, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
As you get older in the high school level, you expect them to be competent, right? I expect them to be competent, number one. And number two, I expect them to hustle, get into the position to see the play. And if you just miss it, you miss it. But
Right.
I always appreciate those two things. And, I always recognize those officials that are doing those two things. One, competent with your mechanics, and two, just being in the right position. I get it if we're coaching AAU and it's your 8th game, but still you're getting paid $30 a game to basically work out. So at
Right.
least get up and down the floor. And I know you can respect that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And in baseball, especially behind the plate, it's about consistency.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
there's the textbook strike zone, and then there's the umpire strike zone. And if
Right.
the umpire is calling the low and outside pitch, which may be a little bit off the plate, but if they're calling that a strike, well, consistently call that a strike, because you have to tell your team that, look, when you're up there, this guy's calling it a strike. He's calling it a strike every time. So you may not
Right.
think it's a strike, but in his mind it is. So you got strikes, you got to swing at that pitch.
No doubt.
So consistency is a big deal.
Absolutely. And so tell me a little bit about your sports career. I believe you played 3 sports in high school, correct?
I did. I played football, basketball, and baseball, and I was pretty good at football and baseball, and got recruited to play both in college. So I kind of gravitated a little bit more towards baseball. So that's what I chose in going to Cal. That's what got me into Cal was to play baseball.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought you were just football.
Yeah.
And you were on the field for a pretty important game in the history of college football. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I was so I played 2.5 years of baseball at Cal, and then my career was coming to an end after fall ball my junior year.
Mm-hmm.
It was at that time that Cal, which wasn't doing very well in football, they got Joe Cap to come back as their head coach, and Coach Cap was the last quarterback to take Cal to the Rose Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
and so he came in, and it was kind of a movie type setting, right? Because he put an announcement out to the whole school. Anyone who wants to try out for the football team can try out for the football team. And
Uh-huh.
we I was very active still playing football because Cal had 7-on-7 football, intramural football.
Oh.
Big deal. There was a
And,
big deal.
and you're a quarterback for those that might not know.
Yeah, I was a quarterback, and we had a very good team, primarily because one of my wide receivers ended up winning the bronze medal in the '88 Olympics in the decathlon.
Oh, really?
And another one won a bronze or silver in the Pan American Games in the intermediate hurdles. So it was pretty simple formula for us. I said, you guys run down the field as fast as you can. I'm going to throw it as far as I can, and you guys will just catch it. So
Right. And
that made for a pretty good 7-on-7 team.
now, if that happened today, those guys would never ever be playing intramural
No,
sports, right?
no, right.
They're
And you had
Olympians.
right,
Unbelievable.
exactly. But you had football. Football players played. You had every collegiate sports program, they had a team and they played. So it was a big deal. And so I went and met with Coach Cap and said, I'd like to try out for football. And he
Yep.
said, great. What's your position? I said, I'm a quarterback. He goes, well, we've got 10 quarterbacks on the team. You will be the 11th string quarterback. And so I went out for spring ball, and by the end of spring ball, I think I was like 4th or 5th string. And by the time the season started, I was traveling a little bit, and I got to play in a couple of games. And coach liked me because I was I think an overachiever, and had an absolutely fantastic experience,
Right.
which culminated in the 1982 Cal Stanford game with the play.
Wow.
And my claim to fame, I've been on ESPN probably 10,000 times for like a quarter of a second each time.
Yeah.
The very end of the play, the guy who's jumping on the pile, jumping on Kevin Moen in the end zone is me. And
No way.
they stop the film right there, and you see number 8, my name on the back, very clean uniform,
Yeah.
very long brown hair,
Yeah.
starting to jump on the pile. So that's my claim to fame.
Well, you guys were on turf, so nobody would know if you weren't in the game, right? I think it was turf, right?
Oh yeah, and it was
Okay.
it was AstroTurf. It wasn't
Yeah.
field turf. It was a piece of carpet on top of cement. It was
Right. So everybody's jersey must have been clean that day.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, except for the Royburns. So.
Right. Oh man, what a great story and what a great experience for you to be a part of something like that in history, and it's always going to be there, no matter what.
Yeah.
And that image definitely lives on to this day.
Yeah.
And for those that might not know, what was the outcome of the game?
We won, and
Yep.
and it was a great ending to a season. And the couple things that were fun about it is that weekend everyone bought beer for us wherever we went.
There you go.
We were smart enough to wear our football sweatshirts and stuff all around campus.
Right.
And then Stanford did a great thing. The Stanford student body, they on Monday, they replaced all of the school newspapers. It was the Daily Californian was the name of our paper. They replaced all of them with a fake edition of the Daily Californian, which said, basically the title on the front page was NCAA overturns the play, awards big game to Stanford.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so for a couple hours on Monday morning, a lot of people believed that had really happened. It was one of the great pranks and a great rivalry of all time.
So did that start the prank war? I know the prank war between, Stanford and Cal is pretty significant now. I mean, I think they're getting pretty intricate, like how they're doing it, but that's pretty clever back then. But did that spark everything?
Well, it started well before the pranks. Had started well before then, but that was certainly one of the best that ever took place.
Gotcha. Well, pivoting a little bit, and we'll kind of get past your college career and go to kind of your current role right now. So, president of the Pebble Beach Company, and you run an organization that has 19,000 or not 19,000 1,900 employees.
Right.
How does it work? Because every time I've been up there, it looks so seamless, but I know there's a lot that goes behind the scenes with regards to managing all of this. It's just a lot.
Yeah. Well, Pebble Beach Resorts is a lot bigger than what a lot of people think. They think of Pebble Beach golf links and the fact that we host an annual PGA Tour event, the AT&T, and we host U.S. Opens about every
Right.
2 years. But we're comprised of 3 different hotels, all within Pebble Beach, 4 golf courses, and like you said, 1,900 employees in total. We basically act as the city within Pebble Beach. It's not a city in and of itself. So we are, we're the main entity that helps run Pebble Beach. We maintain all the roads, and so it's a very big enterprise. We've been around for 100 years.
Wow.
So we have, so we've got a great history.
1919, right?
1919, we celebrated our 100th anniversary last year, so that was a lot of fun. So you asked the question, well, how does it run so seamlessly? Well, we start with a great app, right? It's beautiful. It's got a great history and tradition. Hosted all these U.S. Opens, some very famous U.S. Opens over the years. But when you kind of take that aside, what's really most important is the people. And we wouldn't be where we are right now if we didn't have a great culture and a great organization. So that's what my number one responsibility is. That's what the senior management team's primary responsibility is to help that culture to grow, to continue to improve, to give our employees the tools that they need to do a great job. And so that's what makes Pebble Beach special, and what makes it all seem so seamless.
Wow. And, managing such a large operation, what is kind of your management style when it comes to that? Are you more hands-on, or are you tasking people, right under you to kind of, navigate their sections? What is your management style?
My management style is very hands-on. I believe that you need to be a part of whatever it is you're doing. So I try to get in and be actively involved in every aspect of the different parts of the business that I run. It's like being a part of the team, being a player on a team, or being a coach on the team. I think those skills that you learn in playing team sports translate very well to being a part of a team and being a senior leader in that team.
Right. Some of the challenges that you might have, I could assume there's quite a few, but can you give the people a little bit of a bird's eye view from your position?
Yeah, well, obviously, right now, today, in the environment that we're in with the coronavirus crisis that's going on, that's a challenge that is unprecedented. But that, rather than talk about that right now,
Yeah.
I think a better example is when our business is sort of running normally, and what are some of the challenges there.
Sure.
I think that kind of one general, then one specific. So from a general perspective, like I said, it's all about our people. And I've been here 20 years. I've never worked for an organization before this where people cared so much about their jobs and believe that what they're doing is important for our company, and makes a positive impact to our guests. So things like open communication, giving employees the opportunity to keep improving, letting them know what's going on in the business. That's what people are looking for, right? They're spending 8 hours a day here, and they want to know what's going on. So
Right.
we spend a lot of time with different communication vehicles trying to find out what's going on. What do they need? We sit down with we go out usually once a month. Every one of the senior team goes out and sits down with a group of employees. It doesn't have to be in their area. It could be anywhere. It says, well, how are things going? What do you need? What do you
Wow.
need to do your job better? And it's amazing the things that come up that help you to keep your business improving. Because
Right.
this is either getting worse or it's getting better. It's never staying the same.
Absolutely.
Right. So so we spend a lot of time on open communication and learning from the line level employees as to what's really going on out there. And then I think the second thing is we host, since I've been here, we've hosted the 2000, 2010, and then 2019 U.S. Opens, and that in and of itself is a gigantic undertaking. We unlike most U.S. Opens, where the USGA, which is the governing body for golf and runs U.S. Opens, they come in and they take over the host club's site and they run everything soup to nuts.
Right.
Here, it's much more of a collaboration. We run basically everything outside the ropes, and the USGA runs everything inside the ropes. So, so we put together a team. It's like getting ready for the season, and you recruit all the players who are going to be the key part of your team, and then you go out and you're trying to, win the Super Bowl or win the NBA championship. And it's about a 3-year effort. We start out with about 8 people on the team, and by the time we finished, we had virtually everybody in the company had some role to play. So that was, that being able to put that team together was was really a highlight for the company over the last several years.
Wow. Well, I can definitely attest to just the organization flow that you guys have, whether it be at the restaurants. Anytime you get the bread, it's going to be warm. The butter is going to melt on the bread. And that's one of the things that you had talked about with us. The hospitality is tremendous. The grounds are impeccable. Everything, every minor detail, from when you're greeted, as soon as you walk in, and as soon as you leave, everything has created this environment of a terrific hospitality experience. And it goes to show you, when you have an organization lead or leader or leaders that really focus in on the people, everything else really, kind of shows that entire, or embodies that culture that you guys are providing from the top down. And it's no secret that all the top organizations have some really good, impressive people at the top of them. You and your staff definitely do a great job. And I can just attest to the hospitality that I've received whenever I'm there.
You got to come back more often.
I know. If I get some more invites, definitely. So with these big tournaments, like you mentioned, the U.S. Open, what is there a story or something that took place that it was like, I don't know how we're going to get this done? It's coming down to the last minute. What can we do to make this a reality? Like, Tiger Woods' flight got delayed or something like that. Some sort of crazy story.
Yeah, well, we have a good story. First of all, you spend those 3 years trying to plan for every contingency, and 95% of the planning that you do works seamlessly and goes on without a hitch. It's that 5% where something might go wrong that you're trying to plan for, but you don't know which 5% is going to go wrong and which 95% is going to be right. So you try to be prepared for everything and every contingency. And one of my fun stories, if I could find it, I would try to show it to you on this podcast, because I got a photo of it. We stayed late every night, and I drove around with my boss in a golf cart to check out all of the facilities, to check out the hospitality tents and and just kind of everything, to make sure there wasn't something that we found kind of late at night that was amiss. One night we discovered that there were some problems out on the course, and so we called together the team, including the USGA officials and some of the third-party people who were helping us with the security, transportation stuff. Got them all in a room. Here is about 11 o'clock at night. Talked about the problem, got the problem fixed, and then we started just talking about, well, what else is going on? Are there any other problems that we're not aware of that we need to try to fix? And there was one problem where we had this bottleneck where people and golf carts, and we're all like running together. It was just a bad setup, or we call it the path of travel. So
Right.
where everybody was coming in during the day, and all these utility carts were going up and down from kind of the corporate yard where all of the work was being done, and back down to the golf course. So, okay, well, what's the problem? Well, I got this bottleneck. There just was a disaster. Carts were almost running into people. And so I said, well, okay, let's go out there and see if we can figure this out. So now it's about 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're out there. We have our iPhones on. They're acting like a flashlight, and we're trying to figure out how we can fix this path of travel. So
Right.
finally, there's one person's on a dirt path, and there's all these bushes and stuff, and then someone else is there, and you can kind of see the flashlights between. So, well, why don't we build a road? And so the next morning we built a road. It wasn't a very long road. It was more like a long driveway, but we
Yeah.
built a road so that the carts could go in a different direction than from where the people were going. And that fixed the problem. We named it after my boss. We called it Interstate WLP. Everyone got a big kick out of that. We all got photos of it. But that was an example where you had a problem that you never anticipated, and we were to solve it just by bringing the right people together and just getting out there, getting our hands dirty. Talk about getting our hands dirty. So we're out there late at night figuring out the problem, and then back early in the morning actually building the road. So it was
Yeah. It
pretty.
just goes to show you that, you always have to be able to adjust. As a coach, you have you have a specific plan that you think you can attack. That plan is not working. You have to make the move and shift and pivot. And that sounds like that's exactly what you guys did, and had the thought to what is the solution, not worry about the problem. And I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me a little bit about what your day looks like, on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, it changes so much depending on the season, but what time are you up? What time are I just feel like there's so much that you have to do. Give the people a little outline of kind of what that looks like for you.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm hurting pretty bad because I'm at home, sheltering at home, and he's getting me up in the morning and taking me out to work out every day. So
Yeah.
that starts a little bit before 6 a.m.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sore, but it's all for a good cause.
Right.
So my typical day, I usually get to the office around 7:30 in the morning. I usually leave sometime around dinner time, 6 or 6:30. So I work pretty long days. It's just because there's a lot going on. I spend a lot of time in meetings. Unfortunately, that's a necessary evil. It's part of being good at communication, making sure everybody's on the same page. And then I try to do my best to get out into the different departments that I'm responsible for. You can kind of get stuck in your office, and you need to make the effort to, whether it's just walk around to see people or actually be out meeting with the different teams in their environment to help them to do their jobs.
Right. And last question on the business side, what does it take to be, your advice anyway, for people that want to be successful in business?
Well, being successful in business is it's a lot about being successful in a team sport too, right? You want to play, or you want players. When you're recruiting players for your AAU team, you're looking for players that are going to fit well within your organization, that you're going to like, that you want to coach,
Right.
that have the right work ethic, that are coachable, right? And that's the same in the business world. You want to surround yourself with people that are coachable, that have the same work ethic that you have, are always striving to improve,
Right.
or want to learn from their mistakes. They don't get defensive. They're able to step back and look critically. That's another thing that we work very hard at. We always try to be more critical of ourselves than other people are.
Right.
Because that helps you to get better.
Right.
Because you can't do everything perfectly, at least not perfectly all the time. So, well, what did we do wrong? Why did we have this great plan, path of travel, U.S. Open, everything was supposed to be working fine? It didn't. So like you said, you didn't sit there and dwell on that mistake. We said, okay, how do we fix this and make it better? So
Right.
I think I credit a lot of my career to being somebody who was always a good teammate and
Right.
to do whatever was necessary to help the team be successful.
Absolutely. And when we get into, your kids and their athletic careers, that's something that is definitely profound, because all of your kids really were great team players, and they played their role and they starred in that role, and they carved out a niche that really worked for them and the entire team. Um, so, pivoting just a little bit, let's talk about your family. You've got a wife who is pretty successful in her own right. She was a federal prosecutor, if I'm not mistaken,
That's right.
and then you guys end up having triplets. So, tell me tell me a little bit about her, and then about that process and some of the things she's had to sacrifice for the family.
Yeah. So she worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Southern California, and then she actually was working on a case and was in France. And she called me to say that she thought that she was pregnant, and so we're super excited about that. And when she got back in, we went to see her doctor, and they did the ultrasound and everything. And the doctor came back, and actually we didn't just took the pregnancy test first, and the doctor said you're definitely pregnant, but your hormone levels are pretty high, so I want to do an ultrasound.
Mhm.
We did the ultrasound, and the doctor came back and said, you see that gray dot, and that gray dot, you're you're pregnant with triplets. And multiple births ran in our family, both sides of our family, not triplets, but lots of twins. And the doctor then spent the next like hour or so telling us all the negatives, right? All the negatives about pregnancy and early childbirth and all this stuff. So we of course were as nervous as could be. Um, Jean went on bed rest in early February, and the triplets were born in early May. So she was on bed rest for 3 full months. And
Unbelievable.
to this day, she won't eat turkey sandwiches because I made her a turkey sandwich before I left for work every day. Uh,
Yeah.
in hindsight, I wasn't as good of a caregiver as I could have been. But
Right.
in any event, the triplets were born at 36 weeks. They came home almost on time. And we were then new parents, totally clueless, and we just had to figure it out. So
Right.
that was our first experience, and 4 years later we said, well, let's try to have another one. And so we spent a lot of time talking about what happens if we have triplets again.
Yeah.
And we said we can't handle that, because now we knew how hard it was.
Right.
But that's when John came along. So we're very blessed.
Definitely. And a quick story about Jean. She took over as our team parent, basically. And, she wasn't tasked with that responsibility. She just kind of took action. And I love that about her. And anytime we needed something, all right, team's going to go eat. Everybody would kind of look to me, and I just want to coach basketball and hang out and talk to the parents after the games. And she would always have it dialed in. We get to the restaurant. If it wasn't prepared the way she had requested it, she was definitely going to let them know. Wanted to make sure that everybody had the right, the right nutrition, if it was before a game or after a game. And she was so detailed. I'm sure she was, one of the best, lawyers around. And now she became one of the best all-time mothers. She's just a tremendous person. I've loved spending time with her. And I know you probably give her more credit to bringing your kids than probably you. And you've obviously done a good job too, but I just want to give her kudos as well.
Yeah. Well, she's never stopped being a prosecutor, by the way. She switched from the courtroom to the kitchen table, and
Right.
we still can't get away with anything, right? Because
I'm
she's
sure.
cross-examining, going, that doesn't make sense. You were out playing golf today, weren't you, Dave? Oh yeah, I was. I'm sorry.
Right.
I confess. but
Unbelievable.
yeah, so she's that, and she loved being a team mom, and just trying to help the team in her small ways. So
Yeah, whenever I swear I'm gonna hire her when once all the kids are done
yeah,
with all their education. But speaking about your kids, you got 4 kids, triplets, and then the Singleton and John. I had the pleasure of coaching John in basketball. He was a 3-sport athlete: football, basketball, baseball. In high school, probably could have played any of the 3. In college, at varying different levels, decided to play football at Harvard. What an amazing accomplishment. You've got Lizzie, who played volleyball at Creighton. You've got Tom, who played quarterback at Occidental, and Kate, who rode crew at Washington, correct?
correct.
I
Yeah,
got all those right?
that's right. That's exactly right.
Uh, I don't think that happens by chance. I think that you and your wife had a lot to do with it. How did you guys make this or manifest this to happen? Because so many people are trying to get their kids scholarships right now. And you had four collegiate athletes, which is absurd in an era where that's probably not going to happen. I would say that you guys are obviously blessed, but that I don't think is a fluke.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, first of all, Jean is the best athlete in the family, right?
Mm.
So
She played
that's what
tennis,
all.
right? She was a tennis player.
She was a tennis player. Yeah,
Okay.
her team was the first at Occidental College, was the first women's Division III NCAA champions.
Wow.
So she's in the Occidental Hall of Fame, and so she's the genes. They all come from Jean's side of the family. She's the athlete in the family. So that part doesn't hurt, right? The kids were born with some athletic ability. We're obviously very involved in sports. We love sports. We love to play it. We love to watch it. It's a whole. It runs across the gamut from tennis to golf to football, baseball, basketball. Kids played soccer, volleyball. So we're very much into sports as a family.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so I guess our philosophy as a parent was we encouraged our kids to play whatever sports that they wanted to play. So we tried not to push them in any one direction. We also tried to encourage them to play multiple sports for as long as they could, not to specialize.
Right.
And we really only had one kind of black and white rule that was that you couldn't break, and that was once you started something, you had to finish. So if you decided to go out for the high school softball team, like Elizabeth did one year, and she didn't have a great experience at that, which for reasons that I won't get into, but we said, Elizabeth, you got to just finish the season no matter what. And that was true for everything, because not every experience you're going to have is going to be 100% positive, but you're going to learn from that. And you decided to join a team and be a part of that team. You got to fill your role and finish the season.
Wow. Absolutely love that. So many times, especially these days, parents want that fast, that microwave to happen. Boom, 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 boom. And sometimes you just kind of got to wait it out. And I like the fact that you guys were very adamant in your approach to not allowing them to quit something. And
Right.
I think that has really played in their favor as they've gone on to their careers and whatnot. So I really appreciate that about you. Tell me a little bit about your parenting style when it came to athletics. You touched on it briefly, but specifically, I want to know, like, you were more of a supportive figure. I was the coach. You never ever, you may not have ever agreed with anything that I did, but you always let me coach. You never
You
were. What's that?
didn't hear me yelling, but in the front row behind you.
I black everything out, so
What's going on?
I rarely hear parents, but I always respected the way you've approached it, specifically coaching John. And then, there's times where I'd go to his football games to sit with you in the stands, and, you would, what's going on here? But you would never never question what the coach was doing. You always trusted in he or she to put your son or daughter in the right place.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Because I think that is a rare quality that you have, you and Gene.
Well, I think the coaches play an integral role in the development of your kids, not just as athletes, but as people.
Mm-hmm.
And you need, as a parent, you need to let coaches be the coaches, and let your kids develop a relationship with the coach, learn from that coach, learn from that team, and they're going to get so much out of that experience. Whether the team does well or doesn't do well, it's a great learning and growth experience for your kids. So our job was to just, like you said, to be supportive, whether we
Right.
help to be a team mom, or drive to a game, go to as many games as we can, try to always be positive, cheer for all the kids, whether your kid's in the game or not in the game. Just be a good fan and good supporter of the program.
Right.
The and things were never perfect, right? You go back home and you'd be at the dinner table, and you'd be reflecting on the game or the experience that your kid was having, and you tried to be there for them, listen to them. Why isn't the coach playing more? Why aren't they throwing me the football more? How come I'm hitting ninth in the lineup instead I should be hitting third? All those things happen over the course of your kids growing up, and your job is to listen to them and to help them to go out and solve that problem themselves, not to interject yourself into the process, but to encourage them to, well, if you think you should be getting more playing time, why don't you talk to your coach about what you need to do to earn more playing time?
Right.
I'm not going to talk to the coach. You talk to the coach. You figure it out. And I think if more parents would do that, their kids, whether they're end up going to the next level or just having a great experience at that level, they're going to get way more out of that athletic experience if they just allow their kids to take charge of it themselves.
Right. No, I appreciate that. Just being supportive for your kid, because everybody, I haven't had to deal with it just yet, but I'm hoping that I will be just like you in regards to, just kind of being up there supportive, not yelling and screaming. Like, I just want to enjoy that time. I can say that, watching with you at games or watching you from afar, you guys really enjoyed watching your kids play. I know that you traveled to as many games as you could for all of them when they were in college. And that is just such a special experience. Like, you were just in the moment and just so focused on what was going on right then and there, and not really looking too far ahead or what happened in the past, and really helping them along through that process. If they weren't playing, you actually had, I can't say to the other three, but John, it didn't matter. Like, he was going to always find a way to be productive. And he played on our team. He was, he wasn't the tallest player by any means. How tall is John now? 6'4", about?
Yeah, it's a little over 6'3".
But he played the four. But at that time we had a 6'9", 6'10" kid. Our 3-man was taller than John at that time. I mean, maybe our even 2-guard was probably the same height as him. Yeah. But he made a way. Like, there was no way he should be getting rebounds over these kids. And he was probably, like, he probably should have been playing the wing, like if he was going to be playing in college. Like, and I know that was possibly talked about. He could have been a Division 2 or Division 3 player.
Yeah, definitely Division 3. There's some interest there.
So it was like, and I was playing him out of position, but we never had a conversation. It was like, because if he's going to play college basketball, he, at that time, maybe at 6'3", he couldn't play the 4. But right. He never questioned. He just went out there and competed and really, really helped our team. I mean, he was the glue that kind of stuck everything together, and he was an amazing player, but even a better kid. Always saying please and thank you. Always worked on his game. When we sent out workouts, he would always be doing it. He would, you guys would get workouts for him, from speed workouts, because he wasn't going to be a speedster at tight end. but he did it all. Like, and it was just amazing to see his progression throughout that entire process. And a lot of that should go directly towards you. Or, was he always that motivated growing up?
Yeah, he was pretty motivated. It was his motivation, I think, was driven in part because he had three older kids who were always on some sports field doing something. So he was always there, and he wanted to be able to keep up with them. So
Right.
that had a big influence on his self motivation. The but going back, probably the best part about the top flight elite team that he was on with you is how great that group of boys was. And
Yes. Yeah.
but they came from all kinds of different areas and backgrounds, and we're all going to different high schools, and they really bonded as a team.
Right.
And that was really fun for John, but it was really fun for us too. We enjoyed the parents tremendously. We went to a lot of fun places. Had a lot of great trips that we had. I'll never forget that first year up in Reno playing the Goon Squad, and talk about a tough game to referee. That one was pretty amazing. I'm pretty sure some of the parents on the other team were packing heat, so
Absolutely.
It was an interesting experience. But yeah, so that really made that fun to be a part of those teams.
No, the relationship piece is so much more important for me than it ever has been, especially now that I have kids. But during that time, like, we just get to know each other. I would have never met you if it hadn't been for you guys coming to that tryout, where I think either, Josh or Carter's parents said, hey, come on down to San Jose, and you guys live in Carmel. So that's an hour and 15. And you guys made a commitment, a 4-year commitment, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, to come down here. And I don't think he was playing baseball during that time.
Yeah.
He had his football workouts. You guys made a tremendous commitment to come down here and make practices. And, he was doing homework in the car. Like, that was an unbelievable time. And like you mentioned, those kids were great. I'm still in contact with every single one of them.
Yeah.
The families were terrific. We get to know each other on a different level. I think you guys were all at our wedding. And that's really what this is all about. And just that experience in the relationships, like, I've gotten to know so many people because of that. And I know you have done the same thing, where you're sitting in the stands with these people for years on end, and you just cultivate relationships. I'm sure you did the same thing when they were in college, and you're probably family friends with these other families now. Yeah,
like going to John's football games this year, we tried to get back to as many as we could on the East Coast, and it was, we have some lifelong friends that came out of that experience, so from all over the country. So that was really nice. And our plan is to go back to one Harvard football game a year with all of them.
Wow.
And just so we can keep those connections going.
Definitely.
This year John's team traveled to San Diego and played the University of San Diego.
Yeah.
And Noah and Pete came to the game. So
I saw that. They sent me the pictures. That's awesome.
That's pretty fun.
Tell me a little bit about the recruiting process for you. You've got to see it in multiple different levels. Football, you see a little bit in basketball for John, and volleyball. Your daughter played Division I volleyball, and I don't know what the recruiting process is like for crew, but you've had 4 kids go through this. What can you tell people? What was it like for you? And, what are some of the ways to navigate it? You guys actually got ahead of it really quickly and started thinking about the process earlier than most people do.
So we obviously learned over time. Elizabeth was recruited pretty heavily to play volleyball. She played for a team out of Santa Cruz, and they had a lot of experience in the recruiting process. So we learned a lot from that, those coaches in that organization. If your kids are getting some interest, I think one of the things that you can help with as a parent, well, 2 things. One is that it should naturally fall into the level or the program that is the best fit for them, because the coaches know. They see, hundreds of kids every year, and you may think that your child is, should be, I'll just make something up, started in football at Cal. They should be a Pac-12 football player. But if their ability is more geared towards an FCS school or Division II or Division III school, then allow that process to happen. Don't try to push them one way or the other. Just let the process play out.
Right.
The second thing is the kids need to be responsible for their own recruiting process.
Yes.
They're the ones that should be reaching out to the coaches. They're the ones that should be sending letters or DMing or whatever it is that they do to communicate. Eventually you'll be involved a little bit, because the coaches are going to want to meet the parents too. They may come out for a home visit. But at the end of the day, it's really your kids' responsibility to run with that process and their decision, their final decision on where they want to go. And the same's true for just college application process too.
Right.
You need to help facilitate your children, but you also need to allow them to matriculate to the school that's going to be best for them.
Right. Well, I think that is very important for everybody to understand. Number one, if the coach is getting sought after by the student athlete, I can tell you 100% that that goes a long way, instead of a parent just always reaching out.
Right.
In doing this, I've gotten to know some of my, good friends are coaching college and whatnot. And some of the biggest takeaways, one from Jesse Pruitt from Stanford, talked about telling their story and what to include on these emails that they get. And one of the emails was, if you just say, "Hey, coach," he's not going to read it. If he says, "Hey, Coach Pruitt," he's going to read it and take a look at it. And then if they're juniors, and he can obviously respond, but he can't really respond before that. So that would be one thing. The other thing is, put it all out there in the email. Okay, I'm a 6'1" shooting guard, blah, 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 whatever it may be. And so they know automatically what this kid is all about, what their height is, what their stats are, and the highlight tapes are great, but they want to see full games. Can you do it for a full game? So that is something that people need to understand, and the parents need to kind of push the kids to go out there and pursue that if they want to do it, and a lot of kids sometimes might not even want to do it. A lot of times the parents are saying, "Hey, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to go D1," but it's not necessarily the right case for them. And everybody's fit is going to be a little bit different. It's hard to go to Division I and be a star. You see it so often, and especially now, because the transfer portal is beyond belief. Football, basketball, I don't know what it's like on some of the other sports like volleyball, but
volleyball's that way too. Yeah.
There's so many kids that are transferring because they go to a school because of the name or the conference, and instead of choosing it based on the level that they can play. One last thing on that: the best way to understand what type of level you're at is if you have 5 offers from a Division II, and in Division II or the same conference, and you've got 1 offer from the Mountain West. Well, that means you're probably a Division II player. You're not really and you're going to try to go to that Mountain West school because it's Division I. And guess what? It's probably not the right level for you because you don't have multiple teams interested in you at that level.
Right. Well, yeah, I have two other points that I think are important. And one is that you should emphasize with your kids that when they go to that school, can they envision themselves being happy if they're no longer playing that sport?
Right. Because
it's not always going to work out. You may get hurt, and that may end your career. You may get cut. You may not make the team. So
Right.
are you going to be happy at that school no longer playing on that team?
Right.
That's a big, in my mind, that's a really big deal.
A great point.
Yeah, and the second thing is that, and we learned this in volleyball. The Stanford coach, who had coached Stanford for a long time, came down and talked to Elizabeth's team and all the parents, and he said, when we are going to these AAU tournaments, we are looking at as much at the player as they're sitting on the bench and the parents who are in the stands as we are watching them on the court.
Right.
Because we know that they're talented. We wouldn't be looking at them. We wouldn't come out to that tournament to watch them just to watch them play volleyball. Yeah, we're gonna, obviously we're gonna watch that too. But what's equally important, if not more important, is how do they act when they're on the bench? Are they cheering for their teammates? Are they engaged? Or are they throwing a fit and pouting? Right?
Yes.
Are the parents and the coaches get my daughter in, get my daughter in, get my daughter in, right? Or are they being supportive and stuff? Because I'm going to recruit. I only have so many recruits every year for the volleyball team, and I got to travel around the country with these girls. They're going to be living together. They're going to be, it's part of a family. And I want this person to be, they're going to become part of my family for the next 4 years. And so I'm looking for that as much as anything else, which is a really, it's a really important lesson to learn. So that probably helped us as parents when John was going through too, because we realized that, that we could detract from his experience and his possible, rise to the next level.
Right. Do you want to stand out or do you fit in? And that's, I think, exactly what you're saying, because we don't want people to stand out. We want people to fit in to their role, buy into their role, and it's not something where it's like, we're trying to hold you back. If you are Michael Jordan, well, you're going to be Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
If you are Steph Curry, you're going to be Steph Curry. Or if you're Gronk, you're going to be Gronk, right? Yeah. You're going to be able to do these things to help the team, but within the parameters of what's going on for the organization, what's going to be best for everybody. And guess what? It's going to end up in turn working for you. Yeah. And it seems like it's really worked out for all of your kids. I think, your son, Tom, is getting ready to go to medical school, correct?
Working on it. Yeah.
Your daughter, Lizzie, is in nursing. She's a nurse.
Yep.
John is getting ready to be a grad transfer. Hopefully he gets that football season, but he's going to be transferring somewhere he'll have a Harvard degree, and then he'll have a master's degree from wherever he decides to continue that education. And then Kate, I think, after she graduated from Washington, she was with the Gates Group, I believe.
Yeah, she worked for the Gates Foundation, and now she's getting her MBA.
So it just goes to show you, like, if you should probably write a book about this if you can replicate it, but it just goes to show you that all these things align because you basically put them out in front and let them make the choices. If you're going to do this, you're going to do it to the best of your abilities, and they've gone on to be really, really successful. Like you've honestly hit the lottery. I tell people this all the time. I want my kids to be, like the Stivers. I really do. And I hope my parenting style, in my own style, but kind of mimicking what you guys did. Like, you guys really forecasted a way for them to be successful. A lot of people can probably take a little bit from what you guys have done and kind of sprinkle it with their kids, because I really respect the way you guys have done it. Like, you guys have hit the lottery, but it's not a fluke.
Yeah, well, there's luck involved too, but yeah, we're and you and the coaches and the teams at Top Flight really played an important role in that. So appreciate all that you've done for John and really for our whole family. So it's been an important part of that journey is to experience AAU basketball with you.
Definitely. Well, thank you. And there was always struggles too, right? You guys had a lot of struggles with all three of those, all four of the kids growing up. Like, it's not going to be all sunshine outside, right?
No, heck no. There's all kinds of failures, and you and you got to learn from that, right? If you were just successful in everything that you do, then you probably would stop getting better
Right.
in whatever it is. You got to learn from your mistakes. You got to embrace those challenges that are presented with you, and that's going to make you a stronger person in whatever you're doing. So, yeah, I mean, there are plenty of failures, plenty of things. Lots of crying.
Right.
Coming back from a loss or whatever. But yeah, that's how you learn.
Good. As we wrap it up, I want to go back to, your post football career. What was the next step? Did you know that you wanted to go to Harvard Law School? And then kind of tell me quickly about that path to kind of where you're at right now.
Like I said, I was lucky. I really was. In the spring of my senior year at Cal, and I was interviewing for jobs, and I was going to go into a business management training program, sales program, companies like Xerox and NCR. I mean, some of these companies aren't even around anymore, but that was my path. And I really don't know what made me change my mind, but all of a sudden at the 11th hour, I said, I really think I want to go to law school. And so I went and actually worked for a law firm for a year, and then took the LSATs and did all that. And lo and behold, I got into Harvard. I don't know, I must have written a really good essay or something, but I got into Harvard, and that kind of kick-started my legal career. But I'm a recovering lawyer now. I haven't practiced law for a long time.
Right. So after Harvard, did you move back to LA?
I did. I moved back to LA. I went to work for a big law firm, Latham & Watkins. I was a corporate lawyer, transactional lawyer, did public or corporate finance and M&A and that kind of stuff. And one of my clients was a group that now is the principal owners of Pebble Beach. So I've basically worked for the same group of individuals for about 25 years now.
Wow. Well, you've created a great life for yourself and your family, but it's based on hard work, dedication, sacrifice on many different levels. Final question, how were you able to manage a successful business life as well as being your kid's life? Those are two varying buckets, but you always seem to do a really good job of just combining those two things and making sure that you didn't miss, even though your phone is blowing up, even though your email is blowing up, even though you're up at, maybe at 4 a.m. and going to sleep sometimes really late. How were you able to manage all those buckets in your life?
It starts with setting priorities, right? What are the things that are important to you? And obviously for us, youth athletics was an important part of that. So we wanted to be involved in that. I wanted the opportunity to watch as many games as I could watch. So setting your priorities, losing sleep, getting up early, cranking out a couple hours in the morning before the day's games would start was a part of my normal routine.
Right.
Trying to be organized and is critically important. It's hard work, right? So you decide that you're going to do that, and you're going to do both, and you just find a way to make it happen.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for joining the show. I know a lot of people are going to be inspired by your story. I hope people, take an interest to it, because I think it can really help them in the long run.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chris. And like I said, it was one of the best experiences was being a part of your team, and appreciate everything you've done for both John and as well as the rest of the family, because it's you really make a difference. So I appreciate it.
Humbling. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.